All right, let's get to the first film in the Meg franchise, which is The Meg from 2018, directed by John Turteltaub, stars Jason Statham, Bing Ming Lee, Rainn Wilson, Cliff Curtis, Winston Chow, Ruby Rose, and the synopsis is a rescue mission to the bottom of the ocean is terrorized by a massive prehistoric shark. For anyone who listens to the show a lot, I am a big shark movie fan. I just love sharks in general, but this is the kind of genre that I seek out. And maybe crazy take, I think this first film is pretty enjoyable. I like it a good bit. For one, it's rare you get a big budget blockbuster action film that doesn't feel overly bloated, because this is essentially, let's go down to the bottom of the ocean to explore this unknown site. Oh no, there's a megalodon shark still alive. We have to kill the shark. There's not really any unnecessary subplots going on land. It's only about 2 hours total. When it comes to Jason Statham, he's not ever going to be, I think, a favorite actor of mine. He pretty much plays the exact same kind of character every time. It's man versus the world, or I'm out to seek revenge on the people who wronged me. But for what he does it well. He's charming and charismatic. He has good physicality to him. It's nice to see people like Rainn Wilson. And also, Ruby Rose needs to be in more movies. I love her across the board, but I feel like she's not in that much. It is directed by the guy who did National Treasure. Big fan of that. And I think it's directed well. The CGI was good enough that I was never really taken out of it. And it's a B movie anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I think one of the only things at first that feels a little forced is all of the hate that Statham's character gets, because he tries to rescue these people in the beginning. He does a good job for the most part. Some people die, but he's still able to be somewhat successful. And then people are mad at him for that. Then he saves more people when they get stuck at the trench, and the love interest, I guess, gets pissed at him. Like, this is what you do. You leave people. And it just seems like, okay, he's literally the only one that went down there aside from you. No one would have survived if it weren't for him. When the Meg gets to the surface and Statham gets in the water by himself to get a tracker on it, and him trying to save the daughter from the cage, a couple logic problems. Not that it's that big a deal in this kind of movie, but when the Meg first attacks the Mana 1 structure and there's this huge bite mark on the glass, it's pretty stupid considering what they just encountered. And they say, oh, that was just a whale. It's fine. What whale would have caused a bite mark like that? That makes no sense. I do like how they have the suspense of the dog being killed, because at first it looks like it gets taken by the Meg, and then thankfully at the end the very crappy dog owners who just let their dog jump into the ocean get their dog back safely. The death of Rainn Wilson was pretty satisfying, and then the death of the wall when they think they've killed the Meg and it's hanging from their boat, but then the bigger Meg jumps out of the water and grabs it. As stupid as it is, when Jason Statham is fighting the Meg one-on-one at the end, it jumps out of the water and he stabs it in the eye. But a couple little things within that I liked was when he cuts the shark under the water and it's bleeding, the other mini sharks swarm it because, of course, they're attracted to the smell of blood. And then we also see the mini Meg coming out of the larger one's mouth, ending the movie under the water and superimposing Finn for the end. That was pretty good, actually. Refreshingly, there's very few obnoxious characters in this. So many times you have to have people who are always causing trouble, always yelling, and you have a little bit of that with characters like DJ, I think his name is. The score was pretty good, and cinematography strong overall. I thought it looked pretty good. heavy 3.5 out of 5. All right, let's get to Meg 2, The Trench from 2023. Is directed by Ben Wheatley, stars Jason Statham again, Jing Woo, Cliff Curtis, and the synopsis is: a research team's journey into the depths of the ocean turns into chaos when a mining operation forces them into a battle for survival, facing off against megalodons and relentless environmental marauders. I saw this one probably a year after it came out and then just rewatched it. The general consensus seemed to be, oh, if you thought the first one was bad, then just wait till you see this one. And so went in with low expectations. I don't think overall it's a very good movie. A big step down from the first one. One thing right off the bat that was disappointing and also just confusing is the director, Ben Wheatley, who until this one has done a lot of very unique, ambitious indie films like Free Fire, High Rise, Kill Lists, all of which have a real edge to them, are very memorable. Not for everyone, but they're still very interesting. And when I saw he was helming this one, I was like, cool, I'm sure he'll add his signature onto this. And I don't totally blame him, because I'm sure the studio was like, here, we will give you this massive movie, a huge paycheck, and just make this a commercial, accessible blockbuster. But there is not a hint, I think, of Ben Wheatley in this movie. Feels like anyone could have done it. Maybe if he was involved with a script, would have turned out a lot differently. I don't know. I'm glad Jason Statham comes back, and I like that he, going back to what I was saying about him being the same character every time, at least in these movies, he's sort of a hyped up action hero, but for the environment, saving the planet, saving the oceans. But unlike the cast in the first one, there's pretty much no one else that is at all interesting. They also killed off the love interest from the first one. I don't know if there was a specific reason for that, but she wasn't that great of a character anyways, so that wasn't a big deal. The prologue to the movie that takes place 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs standing on the shoreline, and then somehow the megalodon is able to jump out of the water, land on the beach, grab the dinosaur, and then launch himself back. There's honestly not even that much megalodon until the last half. The first part is mainly about this deep ocean mining operation that goes wrong. And yeah, sure, you didn't see the Meg in the first one for a while, but at the same time, that was setting up the character, whereas now we're just waiting to see that shark because we know what's coming. And I think the movie Underwater with Kristen Stewart was a much better and much more entertaining film when dealing with this slightly sci-fi, fantastical, deep water setting. Having this long sequence on land with gunmen and these reptilian creatures was so far out there and not at all related to the Meg. 2.5 out of 5. All right, let's get to the first bonus review, which is The Shallows from 2016, directed by Jaume Collet-Serra, stars Blake Lively, Oscar Yaneda, and the synopsis is: a mere 200 yards from shore, surfer Nancy is attacked by a great white shark, with her short journey to safety becoming the ultimate contest of wills. This is my favorite of the 4 films that I'm talking about, just to get it out there. It was a bit of a unexpected success for Blake Lively, who I've always liked. I think I first saw her in Accepted, and I've seen a good bit of her work. I've never seen her give an amazing blowout performance, but I still am never upset to see her. And I know recently she's had all that trouble with the co-star and director of It Ends With Us. I don't know enough about that to speak on that. But for this film, it is a fairly low-budget, self-contained film. It's not as big as The Meg. I do like Jaume Collet-Serra. I'm sure I'm saying that name wrong, but he just seems to make very enjoyable B movies. Like he did Carry On for Netflix, Jungle Cruise, Black Adam. I think this is still his best to date. It's entirely in one location, and Blake Lively is pretty much the only character. There are a few others who you encounter or who she talks to on the phone, but she's really the only one you see throughout the whole thing. The setup of her going to this kind of unknown little corner of this island, I think it is, to go surfing, and then suddenly a great white shark attacks her, she gets injured, and it is this one-on-one sort of narrative. I think the CGI works overall, and including a non-speaking character like Bruce the Seagull is a good move because that gives her an excuse to talk, whereas if she was completely alone, there would be no real reason for her to be speaking so much. And even if it may be a little overdone, I think most people in that situation would be talking to that bird just to calm themselves a little bit. One thing I enjoy in this sort of B movie is that it's mainly about problem solving. It's, okay, I'm stuck here. How do I get from point A to point B? Okay, I'm injured. How do I bandage myself, etc., etc. When the guy is swimming out from the shore, not really having any intention to help her, she yells at him, and then he eventually gets eaten. It looks really good. Sometimes looks a little bit too much like a music video, but that's kind of Sarah's style, and the score is great. In terms of the third act, I like where she's on the little buoy, and she has the flare, the jellyfish sequence. But one thing I just don't understand in terms of these shark movies nowadays, because if you look at Jaws, which I think still remains the definitive shark movie, the third act in that is, a little exaggerated, but it's still, for the most part, in some kind of reality. You know, he's on this sinking boat, he shoots an explosive device near the shark, and the shark blows up and dies. And that's something that I can buy into. But this becomes so overdone with the realm of reality and what she's able to survive, how the shark responds to certain behaviors, and even there's just an overuse of CGI too that takes me out of it. I don't know if it's a director thing, a writer, producer thing, but just keep it more grounded. It doesn't need to be so big for us to be entertained. However, the shark getting impaled is a good visual. Light 4 out of 5. All right, let's get to our other bonus review, which is Under Paris from 2024, directed by Xavier Gens, stars Bernice Bejo, Nassim Lias, Aurelia Petit, Marvin Dubar, and the synopsis is: to save Paris from a bloodbath, a grieving scientist is forced to face her tragic past when a giant shark appears in the Seine. This is a Netflix original film, and it's a good example, similar to what I was talking about with Bird Box a while back, of these films and shows that will be a big hit for a week or two, and then shortly afterwards, people are like, wait, which one was that? And it's just out of their brain. And actually, I thought for the first 30, 45 minutes or so, it was decent. Not amazing, but the writing, directing, acting were all fine. The Paris setting was great. The behavior for really all of the characters is ridiculous, but ironically, the worst is this shark activist who's this young woman who is trying to deter or distract the police from finding the shark and possibly killing it. And the scene that pissed me off more than anything was when 3 officers are scuba diving in the Seine trying to find the shark, and she actively turns off the beacon for Bernice Bejo so she can't help communicate with the divers as to where the shark is. I don't care how much you want this shark to live, there are still people down there just doing their job. And she's like, oops, nope, sorry. And then even more so, the scene that had me almost laughing out loud, not in a good way, was they're in the catacombs of Paris where the sharks are supposed to be living. And this activist is just so sure. She even says, quote unquote, they're harmless. Complete nonsense. Then she's in the water with them and she's petting this baby shark, not thinking, oh yeah, the mother isn't going to be protective. Of course, an activist, a shark enthusiast, would have some knowledge of that. Unsurprisingly, the mom shark jumps out of the water and snatches the activist in a very goofy looking shot. The CG was terrible. After that, it gets even worse because all of these different social media influencers and other people who are surrounding this pool, they all just start falling into the water. There's no reason why that would happen. Yeah, you might get a fright from seeing the shark jump out, but why would you fall forward? And of course, there's total panic. People are pushing each other and all that, which I could see that happening. But then there are these shots that cut to a wide view of the pool, and all of the people who fell in are suddenly in the middle. If you fell in because there's a shark, you're not going to swim forward. You're going to turn right around and get back up on the ledge. And I'm not even sure how they all got down there logically either. And I was starting to enjoy the scene that happens right after of this autopsy from Berenice Bejo of one of the sharks. And she's like looking like, like it's adapted to fresh water. And do you see this? Do you see that? And then suddenly out of nowhere, she goes, we have a new species of shark here. They can reproduce without a male. And so if they get out into the ocean, they'll kill everything. There's also the stuff with the mayor who is saying, no, we can't do anything about this. And I know a lot of politicians suck, but she's like, we have this triathlon happening. You just need to deal with this yourselves. This is a shark in the Seine, something that has never been heard of before. And one little side note, I think the 47 meters down films, I hope they do more. I think those are not amazing, but are a little underrated and are, for one, way better than this. 2 out of 5.